Today, we have with us Mr. Alphonse Roy, sir, who's an Emmy Award winner, an acclaimed cinematographer, on-screen presenter of wildlife films, who has shot nearly 15 feature films with maximum number of films on tigers. He has dedicated his career to capturing the essence of India's wilderness and advocating for its conservation. His work has been instrumental in bringing light to the beauty and challenges of India's wildlife through his documentaries. I request you all to please join me in welcoming with a round of applause Mr. Alphonse Roy, sir.
Everybody, thanks. Nice to see this bigger crowd for wildlife interest. I want to just correct a few things which the intro about me. I started as a documentary cameraman and then moved on to wildlife because my primary interest was wildlife, even while I was a student at the film school in Chennai. As part of our schooling project itself, the film school project, I'd gone out and made an attempt to shoot wildlife within the limitations of a government institute, whatever one could do, we did it. And then got into documentaries because that was the closest to shooting wildlife, because you don't have a director per se calling the shots. Then moved on from there, and today I've shot nearly 15 feature films as well. Santosh Shivan, I believe we have a session this evening with him. He was one of the prime reasons that I came down to Bombay and started shooting feature films, and out of his own encouragement. One of the larger reasons behind moving into feature film was the times when I shot wildlife films, it was all shot on film. And India had only Doordarshan, the only television. We did not have the multiple television channels. So my films used to be shot either for National Geographic Washington DC or BBC Natural History Unit in Bristol. You know, they used to come out with one Sunday there'll be a film coming out from BBC, and another Sunday a film coming out from Washington DC. So that used to be the only two films. When suddenly some accountants sitting in television channels looked around and said that there's such a good viewership for wildlife films, so why not we kind of multiply on it? And they decided that let's go into kind of 8 hours of broadcast of wildlife films, you know, and then that expanded even further. And today we have 24-hour channels like, you know, Discovery and various channels. But it's very difficult to produce blue chip wildlife films, like which I used to do earlier. I started working on tigers, got branded as a cat expert kind of a stuff. Went on to kind of shooting jaguar in Amazon, lions in Africa, leopards in Yala National Park in Colombo. So, but I've also shot films on king cobra, you know, such kind of things happened. I did not choose tiger because that was my primary interest or anything. You know, we never looked at, how do I put it, it's the charisma of an animal makes it reach more number of films, you know. There are much interesting wildlife films which can be done on a pond heron, or, you know, you look at the flamingos around Bombay, you can make a very interesting film, the man-animal interaction and stuff. But a television, a producer who commissions the shows would be more interested on a tiger or a lion, you know, or a blue whale rather than. So there is certain hierarchy even in the wildlife television based on the charisma of the animal. That's how I accidentally ended up starting my first film on tigers. My first film on tiger took me 4.5 years to complete. It was supported by Anglia Productions, UK, and Ashish Chandala, another wildlife filmmaker. He was my very close friend. We were doing the film together. They were so kind enough that for the first 2 years, we did not have more than 1 minute of footage. You know, they were spending money to keep us in the field. We had this golden rule that after 20 days, 25 days of traveling, we used to change the magazine, because if you get an opportunity to shoot the tiger, your magazine will not run because it's been traveling continuously. So we used to pull it, check it, change it, all that stuff. In spite of that, after 2 years, Anglia kind of supported and said, go ahead. You know, we told them that there is hope. What really happened was we didn't have a so-called habituated tiger, which you see today in Bandhavgarh. We used to go on an elephant, where the elephant is considered the ultimate four-wheel drive to go inside, move inside a forest. And so we used to kind of go down to see the tiger. Then by the 4th year, sitting there and observing the monkeys, you know, the way they were moving around in the bamboo, I decided to adapt the same technology. So picked up a still tripod, attached 3 long bamboo to the tripod, still tripod. On top of that, set my camera, then started filming it, you know. That's when we started getting some effective results. But there were issues. The elephant would look at a green bamboo and think it's a real bamboo and pull it off. You know, there were times the camera would fall. We had all kinds of situations. And the elephant, you had to move away from the film camera. And on a film camera, you can't take your eye off just like that. You would fog the film. So you had to constantly keep one hand on the eyepiece and shut the eyepiece in case if you had to move out, and continue the camera running. From there we evolved, and then we developed something called an elephant tripod, you know, which is a 14 feet high elephant tripod with 3 legs, where I can sit on top of it. It's got a moving, rotating base. I have a clip which I'll show it a little later because they have to convert it to MP3. Whenever it's ready, I'll show that to you. So basically what happened was, that's how we started wildlife filming. Then onwards, my first film got completed. Immediately Italian television wanted a film on tiger. You know, by the time that took some 2 years to complete, then the French television wanted a film on tiger. By then Partridge films from UK came down, you know. So we realized there was a big charisma for tigers, and it started one after the other, then a National Geographic film. That's how I ended up spending nearly 10 to 12 years on tigers. And then there was this big challenge about shooting jaguar in South America, you know. So there was a big issue with that. They were not getting footage, so they thought, if this guy is comfortable with tigers, why not put him there? So I went down to the Amazon, worked there for 2.5 years, managed to get some footage, not great footage. So when that got over, then I worked on another leopard film in Colombo, Yala National Park. Then in Africa, on lions, not only lions, most on biodiversity. Reader's Digest had those days kind of sold out, saying that world's great journeys, and which got oversubscribed. And when it got oversubscribed, Reader's Digest said, what do we do? You know, I was part of the team when we were writing down the lines on the world's great journeys and stuff. So we said that, okay, let's do hot air balloon safari from Masai Mara to Serengeti. And whatever footage we get out of that, we will try and get a bit of matching footage from the ground, then do it. So it was kind of 3.5 months flying from here to there every morning. We did a film on that, and then, that's how kind of it went on. And the famous Romulus Whittaker, herpetologist, who has recently published his biography, I was lucky that we worked with him, and I'm lucky that I'm the first guy to document how a king cobra builds its nest. It was some 18-20 days of waiting because the king cobra doesn't have hands or legs and how does it build its nest? By going round and round and pulling the leaves and collecting them together. Then we went and found a nest in the wild, a couple of them rather. And Romulus used to use a bamboo stick with a probe in it, which used to probe the humidity and the temperature. And all the nest we found, it was all maintained in the same temperature, same humidity. It was amazing how these animals could do it. And so then we had to wait. Normally, by 55th day, the hatchlings come out, and a day before that, or 2 days before that, the king cobra will leave the nest because it's Ophiophagous hana, that's its generic name. And a king cobra lives on eating snakes, so it's a precautionary measure the mother takes that she shouldn't feed on the young ones, so she leaves so we wanted to film this in the wild, and nobody has made any record of whether what time they leave or when they leave, it's day, it's night. We struggled hard. Near Kudurmukh, we had a nest, and we had put up a tent 100 meters away, and those days we didn't have modern battery-operated LED lights, so we had to kind of use normal lights with a big generator, but luckily snakes don't hear any sound. We worked on that, but we missed out on the snake because 8 hours, we used to constantly keep a watch on it. We didn't know when the snake left, but the snake left. And then the young ones hatched. Then we picked up the young ones, filmed those. And by the end of that filming, because it continuously rains in the rainforest, we came back after that for 3 months. The whole team had scratching on the head. We tried all kind of allopathy medicine and all that stuff. We finally figured out it was a fungal growth because we stayed in that kind of a cold weather, and allopathy, Ayurvedic treatment had to help us to kind of get out of that. So, if I were to kind of sum it up, one of the key things which helped me in those days to get into wildlife was my primary interest was wildlife, and my father was a photographer. So when I was kind of 8, 9 years old, I remember he used to take me to the forest and meet his friends were like M. Krishnan, a famous photographer from Tamil Nadu, T.N.A. Perumal from Bangalore, Hanumanta Rao, Godpade, So Godpade was from the royal class, he's from the Maharaja family. So he used to come in a Plymouth with the back seat fully kind of made into like a camera bag, Hasselblad with various lenses, different bodies, I still remember. So when I looked at all that stuff, that's what I wanted to get in. Unfortunately, there was no photographic school for still photography. So I ended up in motion picture, the film school in Chennai. Once I went there was nothing related to what I wanted to learn sincerely. I wanted to learn about, photochemistry, wildlife, and photography. But instead I got exposed to Tarkovsky and, Satyajit Ray and all those feature films, which was interesting. Spent some time on it, but still in search of what I wanted to do. The library helped me out, and I ended up becoming a great student of Ansel Adams. So, kind of a Manasi guru is Ansel Adams. I've never met him in life, but I've gone through all his books, and that's where I learned my basics. Moved out, it helped me a lot in terms of using a spot meter, because in wildlife, you can't go near the animal, take an incident meter reading. So I mastered a zone system, adapted that. The basics helped me to stand strong. And finally, because as I told you earlier, Doordarshan was the only channel. And I used to stay in Delhi and leave my house for 6 months. I used to go out, come back, clean the house. My friends used to pay the rent. So the landlord used to wonder, what do I do? You know, am I a smuggler? What is this? You come back after 6 months. So when I tried to tell him I do these films, he said, but I don't see any of your film on the television. So that's when I said that I need to bring wildlife into mainstream feature films. So when we decided for that, that's the journey which I ended up in Bollywood, thanks to Santosh Shivan, who's coming in the evening. He kind of met me and said that, okay, you come down, I'll help you to stabilize, got it here. To all the youngsters who are very keen to kind of get into wildlife or anything to do with nature and media, there is no single place where you can go and learn this. There's no school for wildlife photography. And there's no single teacher who can teach you. It starts with, you have a strong passion for wildlife, then you go around, you become a member of the BNHs or any of the wildlife associations which are around your place. And if you're born in India and growing in India, you're lucky, you know, like the kind of biodiversity what we have, no other country has. You know, America can have everything, but can never have a lion or a tiger. You know, they have the mountain lion. So when I used to attend the Jackson Hole Film Festival in Montana, Wyoming, they used to take me to this Grand Teton National Park or Yellowstone National Park and look at everything, and I'll say, you know, neither do you have a good rainforest like India, or you don't have any of this big species what we have. You know, at the most they have is a mountain lion. So India, that way we are lucky. You take it from avifauna to anything we have a great variety, biodiversity. If given a choice, if I were to rewind my life, I would spend it only in the Western Ghats. You know, there is so much biodiversity there. One of my favorite places on earth is, if you go to a place in Tamil Nadu called Valparai, and above Valparai, if you go to Akkamalai Estate, beyond that starts grass hills. And if you trek from there, you will go to the highest point of Western Ghats, which is the Anamudi Peak. And then you get down on the other side, you'll end up in Erevikulam National Park in Munnar. But between this stretch, you will see Shola grasslands. You know, in Tamil they call it Solakade. The Shola grassland has a unique ecosystem which is not found anywhere else in the world, only found in Western Ghats. Endless grassland, you know, lemongrass which is grown everywhere. And in between them, you have clumps of circle of tree line. And for millions of years, the seeds from the tree line come out, fall due to wind, but they don't grow. The tree lines remain within that circle and the grassland remains, you know, they don't cross across each other. And when you see elephant herd, when you see a tiger, you know, or the rare lion-tailed macaque, which is a monkey which is not found anywhere else in the world other than in Western Ghats. That too in sections like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, no other place. Or the great hornbill, you know, you find a nest and the way it flies, and what a sensitive bird, you know. I had to work very hard on a hornbill because it nests at a height of 60 to 70 feet. So I'm on another tree, which is 70 feet high, some 150 feet away. A tree height, I have to get into the tree height by morning 5:30 before the bird comes for the first feed. sit there silent till evening 6:37, and you have to be so very careful that the animal's eyesight is so good. When I presume you all know the life cycle of a hornbill. They find this tree hole by December, the male and female, and then once they've made the choice, then they look around the surrounding, how safe it is. Then the female gets inside, and the male and the female together use ficus and fecal matter and pieces of wood, and they seal this tree hole with one small hole in the center. The female is locked inside, the male is outside. He's flying every day, 6 trips, 8 trips, 9 trips. A committed relationship they have. And he comes with the food. In the meantime, the female sheds a bit of her feathers, creates the warm insulating base over which she will lay one egg and incubate it. Incubation happens, the chick comes out, chick learns from the mother. It also, the father is bringing feed, lot more because 2 stomachs to feed. Reaches a point when the chick is grown up, there is space tightness. The mother will break, come out, but leave the chick there. And the chick joins with the mother, and they would once again seal the wall. Have a small hole opening, and by then the chick has learned that the fecal matter has to be picked up and thrown out through the hole, because you don't leave it there. It's slightly wet, it'll attract certain bacteria and ants can kill it. It needs to be at that height because snakes monitor lizards, and they manage it so beautifully. Monitor lizards can't find this tree hole for some strange reason, They keep it smell free and all that kind of stuff. So I'm here trying to film this whole stuff, and by the time it happens to be April, when the mother has come out, the chick is there, both the parents are moving up and down. Hard to kind of bring food to this bird, and they're frugivorous birds. That's what is recorded by most of the scientists. One day, accidentally, the mother comes. I'm on ultra high speed, 150 frames per second. And I hit the camera, it runs, the mother comes and feeds something. I saw something through the viewfinder, but didn't register what it was. It was something much larger than a fruit. We went back and processed the film, and then we telecined we realized it was a parakeet chick. They also feed protein to their young ones, So the problem with the high speed in a film camera is it makes so much noise that the bird will get to hear it. But even more interesting was, there was one day I was trying to adjust the focus of my lens, and the front element, when it moves, the sun which is reflecting on it moved. This bird noticed it and moved away. I had to abandon that nest, move out, drop my tree height, get out, wait for the next year to film. That's one basic ethics which we have been taught by the old school wildlife filmmakers. The subject is more important, nature is more important. We will never interfere with nature. My job is only to document, bring it to you all, that's it. But the new culture of 24-hour wildlife channels changed things very badly. It came up with films associated with humans, Like you all must have heard about this famous Steve Irwin show, The 10 Deadly Snakes of Australia. You must have heard about the end of Steve Irwin as well, So he was hit by a stingray, and a stingray punctured him straight on in his heart, and he died. That's where television took these shows into a heroic kind of a stuff. The presenter becomes a hero, trying to show heroic. But I come from an old school, we stay far away from the wildlife as far as we can. Primary goal of a wildlife cinematographer like me and my school of thought is we want to shoot undisturbed behavior. So the animal shouldn't know that I'm there, you know. So that's in short to kind of just put, if you want to kind of just get into a question and answer session, it would be great. We've got really another half an hour left. Very tough to, if that footage is ready, we can project that footage. Yeah. This is the elephant tripod, I said. I mean, the primary idea behind shooting this footage, showing this clip is 80% of the time it's your common sense rather than anything else expert, because each situation and the challenge is very different. So you have to have a, trust your instincts, go with what you feel is right, and then it works. We can play that clip.
We are now in Bachi's territory, and maybe Alphonse will be lucky and see his favorite tigress again. He's heard she has cubs.
Elephants have one drawback. They fidget. And so to get a steady 360-degree view of the jungle, I have my 14-foot tripod. We found the kill. It's now a waiting game. A sambar deer a few days old, but tigers like their meat a little fried.
I tell you, elephants, they're great animals to film, use it for tigers, but they have no sense of wildlife filmmaking. When I'm trying to be so silent, waiting for the tigers to come back with the cubs, they make hell of a racket.
You know, that elephant tripod was kind of made with, it was my idea, but it was made into reality by one Sadaji from Delhi, and now the close friend of mine, Nand Kumar, you know, helped us to kind of make it. Today one can kind of make it with much better material like Kevlar and better bearings and kind of stuff, you know. So you need to have the guts to kind of, by the time when you launch it, climb on top of it and sit. A lot of other people kind of tried doing the same thing, but they didn't have the guts. Probably the idea didn't come from them, you know, so they didn't realize that once you sit on it, that's when it becomes even more stronger. But you had to kind of anticipate what the tiger would do as it's moving, and then figure out this is the place it might stop, such a behavior would happen, then launch the elephant tripod and then film it. So this, at that time, was a very successful idea, but I couldn't film a tiger making a kill. And before me, some 32 years before me, there was a Australian cameraman, not getting his name. He had shot a film for National Geographic, Land of the Tiger, and he had shot a tiger making a kill. That was shot in Ranthambore, and this particular tiger used to regularly hunt near the water hole, you know. So it used to wait for the crocodile to catch a deer, and then it will go and hunt it. So it was kind of a predictable situation where he sat and he had filmed it. After that, the tiger kill had not been filmed at all. So I think BBC Natural World, along with Simon King, the famous wildlife cinematographer from Britain, he has shot a lot in Africa, and he's an expert in predation sequences. But he works in a different environment, which is the savanna grassland, where you don't have any trees at all, you know. It's open land, so when it happens, all you have to do is a long lens, a good skill to kind of pan along with the animal, and follow focus, and you'll get your shot, you know. And like myself and Simon, we're all from the film time, so we all have this another conscious habit of how much battery is left, how much film is left in the magazine, you know. So you need to be very critical about when you start your camera, because when the great thing happens, and if you have run out of film or a battery, you know, it's considered a big shame. So something happened in front of me and I couldn't document it. But gone are those days. Now in digital age, things have changed completely. You know, you have Sony came up with this cache, so you just set it on a kingfisher and it's running all the time. And the minute the kingfisher jumps to catch the fish in the water, you just hit the button, the last 8 seconds rewinds and comes into a hard disk. So, you know, that's the kind of technology you have today. So things have simplified a lot, honestly. Thanks to digital technology. Today, a lot more wildlife behavior is getting recorded on mobile phones than actual professional things. So it's today just a question of if you have the interest in wildlife, you're really passionate about it, India is the place to go. One unfortunate thing which has happened is, during my times, the government had not put out so many laws and stuff, and the filming fee today is unfortunately very high. Like when I was shooting this tiger film, my park fee was 50 rupees. You know, I had to pay 25 rupees for an elephant. It's a state government. Today, they charge you 35,000 rupees as filming fee per day and another 25,000 rupees for the elephants. So unless you have a minimum of 1 lakh per day, you can't shoot. And imagine shooting for 4.5 years. Can you do it? No Indian, you know, however passionate you are, you can't do it. We've kind of brought in a situation, big wildlife films can be done only by National Geographic or BBC, you know, nobody else. Even they can't shoot for, you know, more than X number of weeks. That's a very unfortunate situation. We don't have a body or anybody to kind of put it to the government to say that, look, to encourage wildlife photography, we need to kind of bring it down. So I care more for the animal. I care for the distance that I keep from the animal. I have a job to do, but there is certain space which the animal respects, and you need to give that, you know. My filming is not my priority. My priority is not to kind of disturb it. So luckily, when this particular film, you can see it on the YouTube, most of you must have seen it. It's called The Great Cats of India. You know, it was produced by Animal Planet. We were sitting in a bar one evening and chatting about it, and you know, so one of the producers said, "What's your dream?" So I said, "My dream is to kind of go and shoot all the 4 great cats of India, you know, starting from tiger, leopard, lion, and the snow leopard." So that gave the idea, came up, you know, BBC has the money to kind of jump in. And that is the time when they wanted kind of presenter-based wildlife films. So I was pushed in to become a presenter. And they realized India had a big viewership. And when they opened up, they want an Indian to kind of be there. So that's what led to a film like this. But it helps for me to kind of communicate when I do workshops like this, what is wildlife filmmaking. So there is this clip of myself shooting in Gir forest of this lions which are mating. Lions and tigers, when they get into mating, they go through kind of 3 to 4 days of intense mating ritual. They won't even eat. At the most, they'll go and drink water. And they're terribly ferocious at that time, to some extent. So we got this opportunity to film. So we said, okay, fine, let's get into it. Because there are some moments like when a king cobra is feeding on another snake, you know. One of the reasons why king cobra feeds on another snake rather than anything else is because it lives in the canopy. In the canopy, it can't move around, you know. Unlike a python on the ground would catch a monkey and its stomach will get bloated because of the size of the monkey until the acids work on it and digest. So it'll be just lying there, and it's a potential victim. We've seen tigers come and kill python, cut open their stomach, take the monkey out and feed. And the young ones would play with the pieces of python like a rubber cycle tube, you know. So with the king cobra can't afford to do that, it lives in the canopy. So that's why it kind of feeds on another snake. And that snake fits straight into the body. And the king cobra can move around in the canopy. And I mean, that's the family Ophioophagus hana. And it also hunts cobras. So then comes the question about the venom. But king cobra has a certain kind of P factor in them that the other venoms cannot hit them. King cobra by itself is a very mature snake. I've had some interactions with it very close. It's unlike the normal spectacled cobra. It's a very good sense of sight, smell and vibration, and doesn't panic, you know. So I had a situation like I was shooting in Karnataka in a Cardamone, which is a private coffee estate. And there was a large water body there. So we'd done some filming in the morning. Romulus Whittaker was there. And we suddenly saw a snake coming in the distance in the water. So immediately kind of rushed, took my low base. I wanted the camera to be as close to the water as possible. Couple of inches just above the water. Set up a 300mm lens and then started filming it. Could see in the telly the snake coming through with the body glistening in the water and breaking the water and coming. Kept coming. At one point I said, okay, let me give it an exit, you know, just for the sake of comfort of an editor. It's taking long time to exit. I'm getting worried the film will run out or the snake, will it exit or not? Luckily the snake exits and then the film runs out. So we cut the camera and the camera body is here. I can see the snake right near me. It's a long blackish snake. I'm not able to see the head. You normally look for the head, you know, to take a protective measure. So when I couldn't see anything, then I said, okay, let's move. So I put my hand under my low base along with the camera body, lift it up. As I put my hand under the water and lifted, something touched the back of my hand. And once I lifted it out, I saw the head of the snake there. It was a king cobra. So immediately all we did was, fine, don't panic. That's the ground rule when you work in such situations. Slowly stepped out, moved, and I came to the shore and I'm here. So, I mean, none of the animal wants to attack humans, not even the king cobra. It's unfortunate that snakes have earned such a bad name in the society, you know. So, I consider the king cobra to be amazing, but you can see this in day-to-day life. If you go into Karnataka, near Agumbe, Someshwar, Mangalore, at least in a week there is 1 or 2 cases of a king cobra coming into a house. And they call it the Kalinga. And I was there in one of the houses along with Rom Whittaker. This king cobra came into the house. They didn't even into the bathroom. They just locked the bathroom door. And nearly after 24 hours, they had informed us. We were there nearby. By the time the message could reach us. And so when we reached there with the film camera at night with battery operated light, they're all sitting and having dinner. And just right there is the bathroom and the door is closed and there is a gap below it. They said, it's just a Kalinga. It won't do anything. And it has 15 ml of venom, which can kill an elephant in barely 15 minutes. You can imagine. That's the kind of coexistence we've had in this country, you know. You look at conservation and the culture started long back in our civilization. Our pantheon of Hindu gods, every god has got an animal attached to it. You know, that's the kind of consideration and conservation we've had. But today, what happened to be so successfully running on till now is now heading towards a very bad situation. Like 1972, there was a group of people like Billy Arjun Singh, H.S. Pawar, they all approached Mrs. Gandhi and said, look, our wildlife is in a very bad shape. We need to kind of protect it. So she comes out of this Wildlife Act 1972. We start creating national parks and said that hunting is prohibited. Hunting as a sport is completely stopped. animals are protected there. The people outside are protected this side. Science and development. Life expectancy, which was around 65 at that point, has now gone to somewhere around 85. People can live up to 85 years easily, comfortably. Couples who didn't have kids went out, artificial reproduction and assisted reproduction. So the human population is multiplying, multifold. Once the hunting has been stopped, and within the national park, the animals are multiplying, but the land mass is not expanded. It has to eventually lead into a conflict. Today animals are coming out. Today you look at a newspaper, every day you find one story of elephant in Tamil Nadu or Kerala coming out, a man-animal conflict. Or in Gujarat, there is regular lions coming out. That conflict is there. And you also have the tiger, a lot of places.
They're all sitting and having dinner. And just right there is the bathroom and the door is closed and there is a gap below it. They said, it's just a kalinga. It won't do anything. And it has 15 ml of venom, which can kill an elephant in barely 15 minutes. You can imagine. That's the kind of coexistence we've had in this country, You look at conservation, and the culture started long back in our civilization. Our pantheon of Hindu gods, every god has got an animal attached to it. That's the kind of consideration and conservation we've had. But today, what happened to be so successfully running on till now is now heading towards a very bad situation. Like 1972, there was a group of people like Billy Arjun Singh, H.S. Pawar, they all approached Mrs. Gandhi and said, look, our wildlife is in a very bad shape. We need to kind of protect it. So she comes out of this Wildlife Act 1972. We start creating national parks and said that hunting is prohibited. Hunting as a sport is completely stopped. Animals are protected there. The people outside are protected this side. Science and development. Life expectancy, which was around 65 at that point, has now gone to somewhere around 85. People can live up to 85 years easily, comfortably. Couples who didn't have kids went out, artificial reproduction and assisted reproduction. So the human population is multiplying, multifold. Once the hunting has been stopped, and within the national park, the animals are multiplying, but the land mass has not expanded. It has to eventually lead into a conflict. Today animals are coming out. Today you look at a newspaper, every day you find one story of elephant in Tamil Nadu or Kerala coming out, a man-animal conflict. Or in Gujarat, there is regular lions coming out. That conflict is there. And you also have the tiger, a lot of places. So we've reached a point of man-animal conflict in a very big way. What did Africa do? Africa had the same issue. Protection, tourism, paid for their people. But when it went beyond a point, they started doing something called selective culling. This started some 15 years back in Africa. They would select a herd of animal, the matriarch, that whole herd is identified, and they cull the whole herd, so there is no trauma within them. The meat is sold, tusk is sold, the money is spent back on conservation. But with India and our religious considerations, you can't do the same here, So one has to wait and see. Can I show the other clip about the lion and filming that? Yeah, we can play that clip.
The pair settles by one of the Maldari's wells. During mating, lions are at their least predictable and most dangerous. Alphonse is in at the deep end. While the female is receptive, the male doesn't leave her side, not eating for a week or so, and mating up to 50 times in 24 hours. Luckily, Alphonse has an experienced forest guard at hand, able to drive the lion away with a stick. They have nothing else for their personal protection.
Thanks. It was my assistant. There was a boy from England who had kind of shot this. He was aware when this was happening and he filmed it, and that's how it became a part of this film. If you notice one thing, that my immediate reaction was the lion was coming and I was struggling to follow focus. There was no element of fear which was coming in, you know. I was so irritated that these people chased the lion. I might have got some other shot, you know, if that didn't happen. So that's what to say, that it's a passion and it's a certain trust. It's an amazing level. Animals are much easier to predict, you know. There might be physical discomfort living in a forest and working there, but you are in a much more better world, and you know, you can predict animals so easily. You know, they never do things unnecessarily. They don't kill their own species, or they don't do anything negative to the planet. After that, when I moved into the feature film industry, you know, that's when I could, because I had come out with complete full trust. We used to trust the mahout, we used to trust the animals, the animal used to trust. Everything was built on trust, you know, and certain commitment, certain ethics. When I come out, and I used to sit there, and my life has been guided completely by what I see in the forest. I see the animal of the wildlife, and I compare it with humans and consider, why is it this doesn't happen there, you know? Like there used to be a deer killed by a leopard. I'm sitting in a hide, and the dead deer is there, and you have another herd of deer which is going behind, you know. They can smell the kill, because I can smell it as well. They'll stop for a second, see it, and then just move forward. So I used to keep wonder, why are they not doing what we humans do, sit and cry, do, you know, end up with whatever, ritual and all this kind of stuff. Either the animals are far matured, you know, a lot more matured than us, to accept death as part of life and just move on, you know. Many such things, you know, I keep there and wondering, when survival of the fittest, a tiger which kind of reaches an older age, its own grandson will come and challenge him and take the territory. And they don't build compound walls and fences and put arms and guns around, but there is a respect to each one's territory, and it goes. So in a lot of ways, I find the animals a lot more matured, advanced in thinking than the humans. That's my school of thought. Once I came back to Bombay, started working in the feature films, and then I realized, you know, so there are people waiting to backstab you at any moment, and so it's more of a protective shield of armor is needed if you have to survive in the human thing. And good. Anybody has any questions? Or
while being in wildlife, we end up encountering tribal people or tribal communities. So one, if you have encountered any, what is the, you know, greatest learning that you learned from those tribal people, how they balance everything with the nature? And second, if you haven't, then don't you wish to stay with them, you being so close to wildlife, and learn their methods and their techniques of how they survive and everything?
yeah. To answer your question, it's wide and varied, you know, in terms of ecosystem. India has such a great biodiversity, and if you look at the geography, you start from Tamil Nadu to go up to Kashmir, You have everything. You know, you have rainforest to the extent, like the one which I was just telling, Kalakadu Mundandurai, that street. If you go into that forest even today, you won't see any undergrowth. The forest is so thick. And from the tree, if you take a syringe and put a needle on it and then pump water through that, you know, water will spout out. Such spouts will be coming out from trees throughout, you know. But that's called transpiration. And in that rainforest, because the sunlight doesn't reach the ground, there is no undergrowth, and the water level, the humidity is so high in a rainforest, so they have to push out the excess water like that. So you go to such places, work, anything, you know, you could work on tourism so that you get to spend more time. You know, life is only finite. How much time can I spend in the forest? That's the way to kind of look at it. And you're learning. And there is so much to learn from tribals. Unfortunately, their knowledge is not given a PhD, it's not recognized by a university. I learned all my jungle craft from the tribals by walking in the forest in a rainy season filled with leeches. What do? You need to be the first person to walk because you are the one who is waking up the leech. The third guy walking behind is the one who will get the leech bite, not you. You know, simple things. And then there are some leech socks we wear, you know, because one of the big weaknesses of leech is desiccation. If there is no moisture, it will die. So you make a socks out of denim and then wear it up to your knee and put your shoe over it and then walk, you know. And then there are other things like neem oil mixed with snuff, which is tobacco powder, and just apply it around. The leeches don't like it, you know. There are some modern tourists today who come and spray Baygon over their shoe and then carry that. It's living with nature, you know. That's the key thing. Like, you know, when you were a kid or you look at any infant who is 1 year, 2 year old or a 3-year-old, take him to Disneyland and there is a puppy which is standing there. He'll first run towards the puppy. That's what all of us would have done when we were kids, because we all love nature, you know. Any crying child, take it to an ocean by the side and there is a sunrise or a sunset happening, it'll shut down, it'll look at nature. Even you and I do it today, you know. You look at a great nature, or you travel by a train from Mumbai to Goa by the Vande Bharat on the Coromandel coast, that Konkan coast, sorry. It's so beautiful. So nature is the ultimate beauty, you know. You need to learn from nature, to live with nature, and right in front of you, you know that the previous 15 generations or 20 generations have moved away from nature thinking they can control it, and they have failed, and they continue to do it. So if you consider yourself intelligent, stay away from that thinking and move away, you know. If your past karma is worst or bad, then you'll end up as an IT software guy. That's what I say. Because he ends up sitting in front of a computer, you know, 1/4 his life or... So I say I'm really lucky, man. My past karma should have been good. I spent so much time in the forest. Yeah,
good afternoon,
please.
sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
My question to you is, in the realm of natural history filmmaking, is there any scope for bringing factual fiction content or bringing top media personalities who have significant distribution and sort of creating a new kind of narrative?
Definitely, very much possible. See, at the end of the day, I've been lucky that I started with documentaries, went into wildlife, you know, came into feature films, and now I'm working on a script on my own. And I'm trying to bring wildlife to mainstream cinema. At the end of the day, in audio-visual entertainment, it has to entertain. That's the primary purpose. If that can happen, then people will sit and watch, you know. So definitely you can do it. But when you're doing that, like recently, there has been a trend in the OTT films which happened. You know, there was this Poacher, one of the film which has come out on OTT. There was another film of an actress leading as a forest officer coming into it. Definitely it will work, but the thing I would say is today, when you have wildlife as a hero, you don't need to have place Shah Rukh Khan and Katrina Kaif there. You can do it with more realistic people, cut your costs down, be competitive with the other set of filmmakers in Bollywood, and you can do it. And today with OTT, there is such a big opportunity.
So I have studied wildlife filmmaking in the UK recently, and I've come back here because there is no wildlife in the UK, and we have actually a lot of wildlife in India. But what I see is the industry is quite big in the UK or in US, but we don't have that kind of industry in India. Are there commissions happening in India itself for the Indian audiences for the wildlife that we have here? Or what are the ways in which we can develop the industry in India, because we have such rich wildlife? That is my question to you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. It goes into 2-3 parts. To start with is you are not going to find a commission in India if you want to do a blue chip wildlife film or even a presenter based film. Yeah. Okay. Because India does not look at the kind of producers we have. Do not look at investing and waiting for long. Nobody will invest and wait for 2 years, 3 years and stuff. So even National Geographic, has a base in India. They're producing films, which is again, the 3 lakh, 6 lakh kind of budget is what. You can't do much with that. Best is develop your idea here, come up with a beautiful idea, do your initial recce and whatever, do a class presentation, back to UK, go to NHU in Bristol, you will find producers there. Or you go down to National Geographic in Washington and stuff. You must have attended the Watershed Film Festival in Bristol. Widescreen, yeah. So go there and present your idea and find a funding there. That's the way to kind of go about. The other option, until you get your opportunity, is to work with one of the companies in UK, at any level, at a researcher level, at assistant level. So you get to be in the field and you develop contacts, and then you push your idea and get it. Be in India, it's, as I told you, the big bureaucracy and the cost of filming has gone up so much. It's difficult. Even if you go as a tourist, ordinary tourist, into a tiger sanctuary today, a national park, you need a minimum 10,000 rupees, man, for a day, which is not, if you have to spend 5 days, nothing is going to happen for 1 day in wildlife. I mean, it can if you're extremely lucky. But to understand the geography of the place, it will take you 5 days. Gone 50, additional travel. How can a middle class family today go in there and do anything with wildlife? We've kind of reserved it for people with dollars and pounds,
So I'm just agreeing with you when you told that India is very diverse, right? I mean, we have that amazing biodiversity in India, from northeast, from there to Western Ghats until Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. So I mean, when we grown up as a cinematographer and as a filmmaker, and I myself as a cinematographer, so while seeing you and other pioneer filmmakers in India, so I have noticed that there are many films, or there are many documentaries on elephants, tigers, big species, which are famous and people can easily catch up and connect. But what is your, I mean, I want your advice or your suggestion if a young generation, new generation cinematographer or filmmaker can pick up a subject to focus on little bit lesser known species but equally important, like the galaxy frog in Kerala and the Himalayan salamander in northeast. So even those are my personal opinions. So what is your suggestions or advice if a new generation cinematographer or storyteller can focus on those species which has not been exposed or told yet?
Simple, pick up the species. You have an interest in that species, you've read about it, you made an effort to go and see it. Click still images, write an article, find out if there is a scientist who is working on it, and get that article published in Bittu Saigal's Sanctuary to start with.
I mean, you still suggest us to, pick up the story to, as a cinematographer or as a filmmaker. I mean, how is your opinion?
Straight away, if you take it up, if I'm sitting in National Geographic, I'm not going to fund you to make a film on that. You're picking a cheap species on your own, which is, it's not big in the market, as it's not a tiger, simple and straight. It doesn't have that charisma. So you need, and number two, I have no guarantee that you will be able to complete the film. Okay, because you're a beginner, you have an interest, but do you have the talent and skill to deliver a film once I give you the money? I don't have that. So that's why I'm saying that if you go into the subject, write an article, take still photographs, rare moments, cover the complete life cycle. B2 Cycle in Sanctuary magazine will definitely publish it. Times of India will publish an article. That takes you to the next step, and if you're lucky and if you find a Wildlife Institute of India student who is doing a study on it, he's doing his MSc or dissertation, or probably he's doing his PhD on it, join him. You gain knowledge, your photographs will help him. That makes a beginning. Probably you'll spend 2 years on that. Have confidence, something will lead, finally, eventually you will get to kind of do a film on it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Welcome.
We express our profound thanks to Mr. Alphonse Roy, sir, for this compelling contribution for today's session. I now request Mr. Prital Kumar, sir, who is the Joint Secretary Broadcasting, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and also the Managing Director of NFDC, to felicitate our guest.
On behalf of all of us, I would again like to thank Alphonse Roy for such an invigorating and thought-provoking lecture, and simplifying the most complex things like wildlife photography. This time the MIFF VS Lifetime Achievement Award has also gone to a wildlife photographer, Mr. Nallamuthu. And it is so difficult because you don't know when you will be able to catch that expression. And so the way he explained the whole thing, that before actually venturing out into the wildlife photography, you have to understand the whole ecosystem. The way he simplified everything in the short lecture, I think a novice like me also could understand and think that, I can also pick up a camera and venture into this thing. We are so thankful to such an eminent cinematographer to come here and engage with all of us here. Last but not least, I'd really like to thank the audience here for such wonderful questions. I mean, I was amazed at the questions, and they delved so much deeper into the subject. I think it's a profound impact of the speaker that led you into that, and what wonderful answers. Such a lovely session. And I held the mic primarily to tell you one more thing, that because we belong to the part of the bureaucracy, I know this has been raised to us by Mr. Nallamuthu also, that the photographers have to pay a heavy fees for going into the wildlife sanctuaries. And then, as he said, that 5 days are gone in a recce. So we will talk to the forest department, and we would request some association of the wildlife cinematographers to give us a representation from their side, and we will try to take this up, because see, I believe that the wildlife documentary filmmakers, the cinematographers, are actually taking the aspect of conservation to all of us. And if the forest department is primarily there for the forest conservation, so it's actually they're working on behalf of the forest department. So we must definitely try to make things simple and make things easy and make things much, much cheaper. That's what we will try to do that. Thank you so much.